She may be the most famous woman broadcaster ever. Nope, we're not talking about Barbara Walters. We're talking about Tokyo Rose. Veterans of World War II in the Pacific will remember her, and so will millions who saw war movies of the period. The Japanese used Tokyo Rose to demoralize American fighting men, and Americans who gave her name used her as a symbol of everything Oriental and evil. But that was another time, more than 30 years ago, when it was all right to be racist about your enemies. After the war, a woman was identified as Tokyo Rose. She was tried and sent to prison. Who was she, and whatever happened to her? She was an American of Japanese descent, and as an American, she was tried for treason and found guilty. Her name is Iva Toguri Dakino, and today she operates her family's gift shop in Chicago. But was Iva Toguri the sultry siren, the vicious anti-American propagandist, the traitor that people associate with the name Tokyo Rose? She says she was not, and there's a move afoot to obtain a presidential pardon. She maintains that she was framed, a victim of the time.
Who did you want to win the war?
There's no question about that. I wanted the United States to win. I mean, there was no question about it. I mean, what would I know about Japan? The only country I knew was the United States. I'd only been in Japan a few months.
Iva Toguri was an American citizen born and bred, a graduate of UCLA, class of 41. That same year, her family in Los Angeles received word that an aunt in Tokyo was seriously ill. Iva, then 25, was sent to look after her. The State Department gave her a travel document that they said would be sufficient to get her to and from Japan. But by November 41, when she was trying to get home, the State Department was saying they had no proof she was an American. The last ship left for America on December 1st, 1941, without Iva Toguri.
I was living with my aunt until such time that it became a little uncomfortable for them because I was not a native Japanese citizen, and they were harassed.
There was a war on. The authorities told her she should become Japanese.
You can either become a Japanese citizen because you are Japanese, or we can take you into the intern. So I said, well, intern me. And they talk it over and they say, well, no, it costs money to feed you 3 times a day, so you just go on your own.
She got herself a job as an English language typist, first at a news agency and then in 1943 at Radio Tokyo. There she was picked out by a prisoner of war, Major Charles Cousins, to serve as a disc jockey on a program produced for the Japanese by POWs. It was called The 0 Hour.
And you weren't Tokyo Rose. You
No.
weren't. What were you known as?
Orphan Ann.
Orphan Ann. Orphan Annie.
Orphan Ann or Orphan Annie, depending on how Major Cousins felt like writing it. If he wanted to write it Annie, he wrote it Annie.
So what was the substance of those scripts that you read?
Really very, very flippant, so light. Say, for instance, this is Orphan Ann. This is sending greetings to her very favorite family, the Boneheads of the Pacific. He says, we're going to bombard you with a bunch of real high-class propaganda tonight in the form of such and such music.
Reception okay? Well, it better be, because this is all request night. The second request is sent in by a roaming bonehead of an orphan, request number 29. He wants Tony Martin, of all people, to help him forget the mosquitoes and dirty rifles. Tony Martin, and now it can be told.
Iva claims, and all the recordings remaining support her, that her broadcasts were all this sort of thing. Introducing records, functioning basically as a disc jockey. So where did the legend of Tokyo Rose come from? Well, Iva was one of dozens of women announcers broadcasting not only from Tokyo, but from at least 9 different Japanese strongholds in the Pacific. But all these voices were regarded as one voice, and very soon Americans nicknamed it Tokyo Rose. Even before Iva Toguri began to broadcast, American war movies featured Tokyo Rose, the very embodiment of an evil enemy. When the war ended, American reporters were eager to find the legend. But they were looking for someone who did not exist, the Tokyo Rose, the creature of their own invention. Iva Toguri seemed to fill the bill. After she was interviewed by the military and civilian press, she was arrested by the Army without charges and held for a year for questioning.
I gave them the information. In fact, I turned over my scripts. I mean, whatever, because what was there to hide?
A young counterintelligence lieutenant named George Geisy was in charge of investigating Iva Toguri.
It would be accurate, I think, to state that the United States abandoned her in Japan. The State Department, simply through its procedures, never came up with a passport before the last ship out before Pearl Harbor. To the extent we were able to verify it, and we verified it to our own satisfaction, she was picked out by Major Cousins when he was told to design a disc jockey type program. And the next thing that happened to her were Radio Tokyo personnel coming down to her and telling her to go to a certain place and read a script and be auditioned. She wasn't asked if she wanted to do it. She was told to do it. And she did.
The Army investigators felt they had no case to make against Iva, and she was released. She wanted nothing more than to return to her father in America. Her mother had died in an American internment camp in Arizona.
I wanted to come back to this country, so when I made an application to return, of course I received no answer. And I did not know who was blocking it. It seems that a Goldstein brother got in touch with Walter Winchell and asked him to block my return to the United States.
And Winchell kept up his campaign against you?
Evidently. I never got back.
But you finally did get back.
Well, yes, under escort.
In 1948, with no new evidence, the Justice Department reopened the case. Iva was rearrested in Tokyo and shipped back here to San Francisco under guard. And here at the old federal district courthouse, she was charged with 8 counts of treason.
I suppose if they found someone and got the job over with, and they were all satisfied. Man, eeny, meeny, miny, and I was Mo.
A jury of 6 men and 6 women was selected to try Iva Toguri. But throughout the whole proceeding, it was not Iva on trial, it was Tokyo Rose. The foreman of that jury was John Mann, who will talk to us today but refuses to be filmed.
There was a great deal of anti-Japanese prejudice existent throughout the country, especially here in California, and that had some effect on the jury. Of that I am quite certain.
Iva and her defense team of 3 lawyers, who incidentally took the case for nothing, were confident that the government had no case. After all, she'd done those broadcasts under duress. And even the local press was laying odds of 9-1 against a conviction. But the government produced a parade of witnesses.
Who were they? Who were these people? Were they other Americans? Were they Japanese?
Of course, when they came to the trial, they were technically Japanese.
They chose to surrender their American citizenship.
Oh, yes, they all did, yes.
And become Japanese.
Oh, yes, they were all. One was the former graduate of the University of California. One was the graduate of New York University. You need 2 witnesses to the one overt act for a conviction. And they were the 2.
These 2 men, they worked for Radio Tokyo?
Yes.
And you're saying that they perjured themselves?
Well, at the time, I told my attorney, I don't know how they could have, both been there at the same time, and remember word for word what was said.
The trial lasted 12 weeks. The jurors went off to deliberate. After 3 days, they came back, unable, they said, to reach a verdict.
The jury came back several times, and the last time they said, they're a hung jury, there's no way they could come to a decision. And the judge said, this case has cost the government $500,000. You go back and bring a verdict. I'll never forget that as long as I live.
On the 4th day, the jury came back once again. Not guilty on 7 counts. Guilty on 1 count of treason. that on a day in October 1944, she did speak into a microphone concerning the loss of ships.
You can't deny the fact that technically she spoke from a script. It was a script written and designed to be played over Radio Tokyo to suit their purposes. It's entirely possible that it had no effect on American personnel, but that's not the test for treason. The question is whether you're giving aid and comfort to the enemy. Perhaps it gave them aid and comfort, but only in the most technical way, I think. Could you say that she was engaged in treasonable conduct? And even that was arguable. I think a jury could very well have found that she had not.
There's been very few months have passed since the trial that I did not think of her and think that she was not guilty. And I am rather sorry that I did not stick by my guns.
The temper of the time was that they wanted a conviction.
Right. I mean, I look back and I feel that. I'm sorry, I feel it.
And you were sentenced to 8 years.
No, the sentence technically was 10.
10 years.
10 and 10. $10,000 in 10 years.
And you served?
A little over 6. They give you time off for good behavior.
Had you renounced your American citizenship, you wouldn't have been in any trouble at all.
Right?
Why didn't you do it?
I didn't believe in that way. I wasn't raised that way. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I didn't consider myself guilty.
But you paid a very heavy price.
Right. But I guess I'm not the only one in human history that has paid a heavy price.
You've remained remarkably cool, remarkably calm about it. You're remarkably unpublicity seeking. We had to twist you by the arm to make you do this interview. A lot of people in that situation would have been out clamoring for their rights, clamoring for a pardon. How come? And I know the Japanese-American community is indeed, but you're not. How come?
Well, I'm stoic by nature, and I'm not, as you say, publicity. I'm not seeking for publicity. I'm seeking for honesty and truth, though. I do. I wish, but I hope that maybe these people would someday. That's the Oriental Stoicism. That maybe if you wait long enough, maybe the other side will admit later that they did, in fact, maybe told a little lie.
This year, the two main witnesses against her, both of them now successful businessmen, admitted that under severe pressure from the U.S. government, they railroaded Iva to prison. They were coached every day for a month before the trial and threatened that unless they testified and withheld information that would help Iva, they might be on trial themselves. They now say she did not commit treason.
Did that experience embitter you towards this country?
I don't think bitterness is the word. I'm kind of disappointed that I had to go through what I did because of some untruths. And they couldn't separate the myths from facts. But such as it was one of these things.
There's a terrible irony that in this bicentennial year that your birthday is the 4th of July.
Yeah, isn't it? It really is. It is.
Iva finally paid off that $10,000 fine in 1973. This year, a pardon application is being filed in her behalf. A presidential pardon, we remind you, does not bestow innocence on the pardoned person, nor can it restore the fine or the years spent in prison. But in Iva's case, it would give back something of great value to her American citizenship.
Started to get people to perjure themselves and lie about her. She went to prison as a traitor to her country. It's a lie. I've thought a lot. What am I going to say if this microphone works? What would be appropriate to say in this microphone for the first time? since 1945.
Helps you relax. All set?
We don't know if it works or what it sounds like yet. We're going to plug it in here in a second and try it for the first time.
I don't want to go to work.
A message
Be still listening.
from the microphone used by a hero that was deemed a traitor. On my desk is Tokyo Rose's microphone. This is the real microphone that she used to give all of those broadcasts. She was sentenced to 7 years in prison here in America. Her whole story is unbelievable and unbelievably tragic. But let's just say that the government did an investigation. They found nothing on her, so she was free. She wanted to come back to the home that she lived in. She was not only did nothing wrong, she was a hero. I had no intention of bringing it on the air and doing this today until last night when we were doing it. And we were going to test it, and I said, no, wait. No, don't. Don't plug it in yet. Because something, if it does work, that's an important thing. And so we'll turn off this microphone, and I don't know, should we turn this one off?
Steady now.
Check. Wow. Check 1, 2. Wow. That's amazing.
What you need is some good jive. I mean solid.
Check 1, 2.
All set? Okay, here's the first blow at your
I thought
K.A.'s are swinging and singing.
this morning,
Hey, Pop, I don't want to go to work. Be still listening.
if it worked, what should be said? From the microphone used by the woman who identified herself
Your number one enemy,
as
you
Orphan
mind
Ann.
GI? Always to be good. Goodbye now.
We called her Tokyo Rose,
Well, I suppose you GIs would like to know a little bit about me.
but her name was
Well, I was
Iva
born in the city
Toguri,
of Los Angeles
and
went to
she
University
told
of California
the
at Los Angeles,
troops
graduating in
where
year
the bombers
1949.
were going to come
I left the
so they
United
could
States
prepare.
in July of 1941.
She hid
to
all of
visit
her
a
information.
Japan.
She
My mother
disguised
really wanted to hear in Japan.
the words that she was using to hide them from Tokyo, not from the Americans. This microphone hasn't been used since her broadcasts in the 1940s. So here's what should be told. America, tell the truth. Tell the truth, even if it means, in the end, it hurts you.
I mean solid. Helps you relax. All set? Okay, here's the first blow at your morale. K.A.'s are swinging and singing. Hey, Pop, I don't want to go to work. Be still listening. Until then, this is Orphan Ann, your number one enemy, reminding you, GI, always to be good. Goodbye now. Well, I suppose you GIs would like to know a little bit about me. Well, I was born in the city of Los Angeles and went to the University of California at Los Angeles, graduating in the year 1941. I left the United States in July of 1941 to visit a sick aunt, my mother's only living sister here in Japan. When I realized that the situation between the United States and Japan was getting a little strained, I went through the proper channels to try to book taxis on the Tatsuta model, which was scheduled to leave for